Okay. All right. Testing this out. I'm actually streaming on PC on OBS, so you can actually see the article as I read it, as opposed to last week's TWID where I just read it from the tower. I do need to check my audio and everything. Make sure the music's not too loud. Okay, it looks like everything's good. Just checking the details here on YouTube. Let's see. So like last night, I don't have a whole lot of time there. I got about an hour or so, maybe a little bit more, depending how long it takes to get through the TWID, TWAB. I can't even remember what it is anymore. I guess it's the TWID, This Week in Destiny, since Bungie's got a lot of different things going on. Yeah, so last night was vault cleaning. Today's reading TWID, and then hopefully I'll start playing the game again this weekend and solo the Puppeteer. Or not the Puppeteer, I've soloed the Puppeteer. Check my channel under the live tab and you can watch 15 hours of me trying until, I mean, the takeaway there is watch the last half hour of the last Vespers host stream and you'll see me solo the Puppeteer. So now I'm confident to solo the dungeon, and good news is I just learned today that the season ends February 4th, so for some reason I thought this was the last week. So I've got more than a week to solo. I've got more than a week to solo the dungeon. I'm not too worried about the solo flawless, but I just want to do it for rank 11, basically. So that'll be upcoming. Today I'm just going to read the TWID because it's all I got energy for, and I think it's probably going to be a juicy one since Heresy is right around the corner. I have not read anything about it at all. I've not watched anybody's content, even though it was very tempting because I think I got a notification that Aegis Relic put up something about the TWID, and I usually like to watch his content. I think Chablo91 put up a video about it as well, so I'm looking forward to watching their videos. But yeah, this is just me reading it blind, giving you my my first impressions, right? Because I think that's a little bit more natural than me pre-reading the entire thing and then giving you a breakdown. So if anybody is viewing and you can't hear me, or if the music is too loud, just let me know. So, just give me 1 sec. I just need to refill my coffee and I will be right back. All right, I am back. So let's start going through this. This Week in Destiny, January 23rd, 2025. I'm not going to read it verbatim, word for word, or section for section. I'm just going to skim through and try and find what's actually important here. And then looking at the length, oh my goodness. Is an hour going to be enough to get through this? looking pretty lengthy here. Okay, this week in Destiny we're talking about many things, with Heresy launching on February 4th in just 12 days. We want to show you what this new episode is all about, and also the changes coming along with it to weapons, armor, and game modes. Changes to armor already? I thought the armor changes were coming in Frontiers. So, that's interesting. So, ready for another round of this TWID is a monster? Oh, okay. I guess I should have put that in the thumbnail somehow. Monster TWID. Tune in for our developer live stream. Okay. Read our PvP standalone article yet? No, I don't really plan on it. An update on Heresy content delivery. Weapons and armor updates. New weapons rewards coming soon. Old ones leaving rotation. Game to give it kicked off. Check our latest bungie rewards. New AOTW and MOTW emblems. Here we go. Prepare for our developer live stream. January 28th at 10 a.m. Alright, so tune in. I guess that's probably going to be on, what, Reset next week? Yeah, that'd be next Tuesday at Reset. Literally at Reset. Or an hour after Reset, because 10 a.m. Pacific, which my time on the East Coast, Reset is at 12, so an hour after Reset. You can watch it on their official Twitch channel. I imagine you'll be able to watch it on YouTube as well. Okay, yeah, just checking the stream here. All right, so everyone watching the live stream gets an emblem. Cool. If you like to get your free emblems, there you go. That one's kind of cool with the little cactus. What's that one about? Don't forget about our other emblem available through Twitch at the moment as part of Twitch's Drop Fest. You'll earn the Golden Hour emblem if you subscribed or gift a sub. New PvP and Trials of Osiris experience. Okay. I mean, at this point, I'm so uninterested in PvP that I plan on not even keeping up to date on any of it unless I hear the community is like all of a sudden, oh my god, now PvP is really good. We're getting new maps constantly, blah, blah. And then I'll start paying attention to PvP. But until then, I'm just going to skip over that stuff. Content delivery plans for Heresy. Something we wanted to share today is that Heresy will have weekly content and story delivery. Weekly. Okay, so basically they're dumping all the content in one shot at the beginning of each act. Right, that's my assumption. We understand your concerns about our return to this approach, but we have learned a lot from the returning to it, from the all-in format Revenant. Yeah, everybody left the game, right? Because, I mean, the thing is, like, it's not that dropping all the content in one shot is a bad idea. It's just you took the formula of dropping weekly bite-sized pieces and then just decided to drop it all at once. Like, it was never, it's like the story content, the live stream content was never intended to be dropped all in one shot like that. It just didn't feel good, right? You go and get the entire story done, and it's like, it doesn't even really make sense because you got to talk to this vendor and that vendor and go back and forth like 10 times, and it feels like it doesn't really make any sense because it was never intended to be dropped like that. So they did an experiment with Revenant because half the community was pissed off about having weekly updates, and the other half, well, I don't know. So anyway, Bungie was testing it. Now they decided it wasn't a good idea. Made a vast majority of activities content available on the first day of the act, with said content evolving based on the weekly story. Additionally, each week will feature a seasonal challenge that rewards a new tier of seasonal weapon. Check out our live stream next week for the first look at this heretical arsenal. Okay, that's cool. Without stepping into spoiler territory, we can also tell you that Heresy won't rely on a fixed length for each act like the previous episodes. Heresy won't rely on a fixed length for each act. So each act can be on a different time frame instead of it being so formulaic. For example, Act 2 will last 3 weeks instead of the standard 5 or 6. Additionally, all reprised weapons for the episode will be available at launch, while all the second half of episodic weapons will be when Act 2 launches. Our goal is to tell a satisfying, exciting story for both that both serves as an epilogue to the Light and Darkness saga, and that helps pave the way for what's to come with Codename Frontiers launching later this year. Okay. Fine, whatever. Weapons and armor updates for Heresy. Alright, this is the juicy stuff here. Now, the longest topic of this TWID, the weapons and armor preview with all the magnificent buffs and necessary nerfs, as well as interesting reworks that are coming when Heresy launches. We're going to make a coffee pot and leave the room to the amazing Destiny 2 sandbox team. Be right back. I just topped up my coffee, so sounds like I'll need it. All right. Exotic armor, hunter, sealed Ahamkara grasps. Sealed Ahamkara grasps have struggled on hunter due to a large array of alternate reload options that hunters already had access to. We've reworked its behavior to have it a bit more exotic flair in terms of playstyle. Reworked with a weapon swapping focus to differentiate it from other hunter reload exotics. Perk description now reads as follows: powered melee and finisher final blows grant nightmare fuel, increasing handling and airborne effectiveness while active. Freshly drawn weapons deal additional damage and grant nightmare fuel on final blows. Gaining nightmare fuel reloads all holstered weapons. Okay, I'll be honest, I've never even made a build around that exotic, so okay, so yeah, I don't know much about that exotic. Do people use it for PvP? I'm not really a hunter main, although I've used, a vast array of hunter builds, and I'm fairly knowledgeable about most of the builds and exotics, but that is one that I haven't really touched. So I can't really give any insight there. Same thing goes for Gwizinvest. With the recent roaming super changes, we decided to give this exotic a bit of a tuning to let it shine in its role, as well as giving some utility outside with super. Now progresses its super returns on super hits as well as kills before becoming invisible. Improve the maximum possible super energy gains per return while also increasing the amount of progress needed for maximum gains. Now also emits a cloud of weakening smoke when you exit invisibility while nearby an enemy. Works both in neutral and while in super. So I'm guessing that applies to spectral blades. Like, is that what the exotic even does? I mean, I could check dim real quick, but I'm not really that interested. Renewal grasps. So if this is a meaty TWAD, I'm just gonna get to the stuff that I can actually provide some kind of insight on. So renewal grasps. Now that Frost Armor is settled in the sandbox, we feel that renewal grasps can safely be more generous in granting it. Doubled the rate of Frost Armor gain while in the enhanced Duskfield grenade. Okay, so the rate of gain. Okay, so it's not the amount that you gain, it's just the rate is the way I'm reading that. So in other words, you're not going to get any more Frost Armor than you would otherwise, but you'll just get it faster, which I think should be immediate, because the major drawback to renewal grasps is that you have to sit in your grenade, right? So it completely changes your gameplay style of using grenades. Instead of throwing them at enemies, you're throwing them at yourself, right? And I mean, you can play aggressively like that with the sword or whatnot and encompass yourself and the enemies in the Duskfield grenade. But because of that trade-off, you're basically giving up your Duskfield to use it as a form of DR, like a mini Ward of Dawn. So I think you should get max frost armor stacks immediately, personally. So, but Bungie's saying they're just gonna let the stacks build up faster. That's the way I'm understanding it. And currently Dusk Fields on Renewal Grasps, I think it gives you, like on Prismatic, you get ×5 frost armor stacks within a couple seconds. So I mean, it's not a huge deal. So we'll like, they should just make it immediate. Like if you or your teammates go into the Dusk Field, you got max frost armor stacks. That's the way I see it. I think it should be like that. But anyways, they're working towards that. Foe Tracer. While Foe Tracer offers an excellent way to increase one's damage, we found that hey, I wanted to ask if I have to buy the final shape to play Heresy. You know what? That's a good question. I don't imagine you would have to, because I think seasons and episodes are standalone. I was thinking of going back to play. Yeah, you'll have to research it or ask somebody else, because I'm not 100% sure. I've foreseen myself being dedicated to the game enough that I honestly I just bought like the pack, right, where you get the final shape and the 3 episodes and the 2 dungeon keys and everything all at once. So I haven't had to make any seasonal or episodic purchases ever. I've just always bought the expansion packs that covers all that stuff. But as far as my understanding, because I do have some experience playing on like a free-to-play account on my PC, and I have my main content on my PlayStation. I know it's really bad. It's hard to figure it out. But I do remember, like if I go to play on my PC, I do have access to seasonal content, I think. If you just buy, I think you can just buy the season. I don't know. While Foe Tracer offers an excellent way to increase one's damage, we found that the benefit is too brief. And by the way, as far as like Renewal Grasps and Foe Tracer, are they also referring to the spirits? That's a good question. I don't know. But Foe Tracer is definitely another exotic that I use, like Renewal Grasps, and I use the spirit version as well. While Foe Tracer offers an excellent way to increase one's damage, we found that the benefit is too brief when compared to other alternatives. Increase the bonus weapon damage duration from 10 to 15 seconds. Wow, that's really good. Honestly, like, so I guess my most popular video that I put out during Revenant was a Foe Tracer build for Hunter. Well, Spirit of Foe Tracer, right? And it was all about dealing with that bonus weapon damage duration and how to essentially maximize your potential with Foe Tracer, right? And it was doing damage to Puppeteer. Renewal used to be so good with being able to spam it back during. Oh yes. Well, Renewal has gone through like a lot of nerfs and buffs and changes. But yeah, I definitely do remember. I do remember Renewals being very good in Onslaught, like the original Onslaught. And I heard that because I wasn't playing pre-Witch Queen, so I believe Renewal Grasps came out in the era of Beyond Light, right? I guess with Stasis, so it was pretty crazy back then from what I heard, but I didn't experience that. But yeah, so I mean, we're getting buffs to Frost Armor now, right? You're going to be able to get up to 50% DR, which is better than Woven Mail. It's essentially going to be the highest max damage resist buff that you can get. Albeit if you're on Prismatic, you're not going to ever have 50. You'll have, I think, 36% max. So still Woven Mail will be better, but But yeah, now Bungie's saying renewal grasps, like our dusk fields, are gonna give you that max amount of frost armor faster than before. So it's not really a huge change, but kind of nice. Linco, I've been farming all season long. Well, since the final shape released, I've been trying to get Spirit of Surturachne and Spirit of Renewal on my cloak, and I finally just got it a couple weeks ago. Woven mail multiplicatively with frost armor. It's, yeah, I've got some pretty good footage, and I do plan on putting out a video about a build that you could do with it, but yeah, it's pretty nutty. And I don't know about the PvP side of it, so yeah, thanks for the insight there. I don't typically play PvP, so I'm always happy to hear other people provide information there. But yeah, so for Foe Tracer, now you're gonna have essentially 50% more buff time. That's crazy. So especially if you're rocking stasis, like on Prismatic, if this applies to Spirit of Foe Tracer, that's going to be very good, because Silence and Squall with the damage over time reprocs Foe Tracer automatically. And same thing goes for Dusk Fields. Like Dusk Fields over time, it's damage over time, right? So if those slow stacks hit an enemy when your buff expires, then you reproc Foe Tracer automatically, right? So Dusk Fields and Silence and Squall are very beneficial for Foe Tracer in general, right? Compared to other abilities. So I mean, both of these exotics, Renewal Grasps and Foe Tracer, they're both really good on stasis, basically is what I'm saying. Radiant Dance Machines. Radiant Dance Machines have been reworked to allow multiple dodge charges that it grants to count as real dodges for the purpose of perks and aspects. The trigger mechanism for granting extra dodges requires more effort to compensate for that, but the overall charge is a large increase in strength and utility. We've also added some flat benefits to primary weapons that are a real game changer for players who prioritize gun feel and performance when mobile. Improves airborne effectiveness and hip fire mobility, range, and accuracy for primary ammo weapons. I'll be honest, I don't use Radiant Dance Machines like ever. Although I have a lot of ideas to use them, because I've seen some people use Radiant Dance Machines in some pretty crazy ways to like nuke dungeon bosses or crazy damage rotations. I just really haven't gone there yet, so I can't really provide any insight there. Relativism. Okay. Spirit of Galanor. Spirit of Galanor, that's the one where you get super energy, right? On melee kills. With the ability to regenerate a roamer. A roaming super is called a roamer now, I guess. I like this. With the ability to regenerate a roamer more quickly than ever, it was quite easy to end up chaining roaming supers back to back and effectively never need to rely on your weapons during activities. So, to combat this, they're nerfing Galanor. That's interesting. Like, how is... People are chaining roaming supers back to back, but there's no mention of being able to be transcendent like all the time. And when you're not transcendent, you have a super. So I don't know, it's kind of weird that they're just targeting roaming supers instead of transcendents. But either way, yeah, they're reduce the maximum amount of energy refunded for Silk Strike and Golden Gun to 30%, down from 50. So a very small nerf. Relativism, Spirit of the Foe Tracer. It has inherited the changes made to Foe Tracer. I don't know why they just didn't include that in the Foe Tracer paragraph, but there we go. That answers that question. Foe Tracer, all around, essentially 50% better than before, because you're going to have ×4 weapon surge for 15 seconds instead of 10 for every single proc. Same goes for Spirit of Foe Tracer. So one of my favorite, if not my favorite, spirit for Hunter. Major buff. I'm excited about that. Cool. Okay, that's probably that's the one thing in this entire Hunter exotic armor rework that is notable to me, right? So out of all of the changes to Hunter, for me, Foe Tracer is the biggest change, the best change, and one that I'm going to capitalize on. Okay, Titan. Titan's Ramparts. Titan's Ramparts was adjusted to account for its problematic dominance in PvP, but that came at a cost of value across the game. In the current sandbox, we found that many of its downsides can be removed safely in PvE, even with a small buff that gives it in PvP, without introducing those toxic play patterns. Remove several downsides applied by Assault Barricade to bring it in line with base Tower and Barricade. Cumulatively, these changes result in a Tower and Barricade you can shoot through with no other downsides, while Titan's is equipped. In PvE, see below. Increased Barricade health from 400 to 500. No longer increases Barricade cooldown. No longer decreases Barricade duration. That's good. So that's PvE specifically. That's why I don't use Titan Ramparts in PvE. I've tried it before, and it's like the Barricade lasts like hardly any time at all. But I mean, like, theoretically, Titan's Ramparts would be a very optimal class ability, or exotic. I mean, hard cover that you can shoot through where enemies can't shoot you. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good ability. It's just it's never had the uptime. Further increased damage dealt to Titan's Barricades by Guardians from 125% to 160%. Okay. This results in near identical effective Barricade health in PvP. Okay, well, whatever. Titan's Ramparts, a little bit of a buff in PvE to make it a little bit more in line with a normal towering Barricade, but just better, thanks to Titan's Ramparts. So, I mean, that's pretty good. Is it going to be enough to actually not use a different exotic? That's the main question. I kind of doubt it. Eternal Warrior. We want Eternal Warrior to be an appealing option in both PvP and PvE for players interested in building into Fists of Havoc. We're giving it increased super duration on Final Blow. Nostalgic effect for longtime players that is thematically aligned with the exotic. Final Blows with Fist of Havoc now grant extended super duration. So basically Doomfang Pauldrons, but for Fist of Havoc. I guess that's pretty good. I mean, I've made plenty of Eternal Warrior builds on Striker, like before we got it on exotic class items. I do enjoy it. Even in GMs, like, it's a good roaming super. You have that overshield on top of your roaming super damage resistance, which makes you extremely tanky. It's a one slam blind versus unstops. And now if you're really doing some ad clear at the same time, you're just gonna have the super up for even longer, right? And on top of that, like, we got all the roaming super buffs, so I think this is going to be, more appealing than before. Sounds pretty good. Ursa Furiosa. Our recent changes to Ursa Furiosa to integrate it with the Unbreakable aspect have yet to encourage significant use. No, because you're encouraging people to hold your grenade instead of use your grenade. So we want to learn further into supporting Unbreakable by changing the energy returned by blocking with Unbreakable to be grenade energy. Blocking damage with Unbreakable now returns grenade energy instead of super energy. I still don't think this is going to make a big difference at all. Right? They've already changed the way that Unbreakable acts. I think with the last TWID we got information on that. So basically you're going to have way more uptime with Unbreakable. And now Ursa Furiosa is also going to give you way more uptime with Unbreakable, and it doesn't mean anything to me because that's just more uptime of holding my grenade button and not doing anything else. So, I mean, do you literally just want a tank? I mean, maybe if you're in a 6-man raid and you need somebody that's just dedicated to being 100% a tank and nothing else, then yeah, that could be something to use, maybe in PvP for holding down positions and control or something like that. I don't know about PvP, but as far as PvE goes, there's literally no incentive to use Unbreakable, right? So it's not a game changer for Ursa Furiosa for me. Khepri's Horn. Khepri's Horn is getting a glow up. It will cause your barricade to emit waves of damaging solar energy with... Oh, I think I heard about this. But with this update, they have been significantly enhanced. Now sends out 3 waves of flame instead of just 1. So like Consecration. These waves no longer return towards the barricade. They only travel outwards once. Okay. So instead of a wave going forwards and coming back to you in one straight linear path, it's just going to be like the initial Consecration wave, right? Tracking on the waves has been enhanced, so like Abeyant Leaps with Drangar's Lash, right? But it's going to be a solar version. Combatants damaged by these waves are enveloped in a sunspot. Players are enveloped if they are defeated. I mean, the wave is still going to be doing scorch damage, right? They didn't say anything about removing scorch, so I mean, if you're on solar, Khepri's Horn is going to create a sunspot anyways. I guess unless you're not using Sol Invictus for whatever reason. But that kind of incentivizes you to use Khepri's Horn on Prismatic essentially, because you don't have access to sunspots or Sol Invictus on Prismatic Titan. So I don't know. That could be kind of interesting, I guess. The question is, did they carry this forward to Spirit of Khepri? Right, that's what I want to know. Insurmountable Skullfort, one of my favorite low-end exotics for Titan. As difficulty goes up, Skullfort can feel... Yeah, that's why. As difficulty goes up. Skullfort can feel overly punishing when you fail to land final blows with its perk demands. To alleviate this issue, we're extending its effects to grant partial refunds from any melee attack to help rebuild that crucial momentum. Okay, well, I mean, I have a whole build that revolves around never actually losing that melee, using like a 1-2 finisher. Will Paxson, I'm going to remain a bit skeptical because I don't want to put my hope too high. I think that's a good approach for sure. Be carefully optimistic or just be skeptical, right? Don't get your hopes up just to have them shattered. But yeah, I mean, this is the first time I'm going through the TWAB, so I don't know what I'm missing yet. Let's see. So far, I'm not excited about anything, but I'm also not really skeptical, so I'm just neutral at this point, going through the info. But yeah, so in Skullfort, big buff. Not a big buff. There's no change to damage or anything like that. But let's continue reading it. Now grants energy to arc melee abilities when hitting targets with any melee attack. So still, I mean, the issue is still if you miss, then you're without your melee, and then the build falls apart, right? Because then you can't spam it, which is what it's designed to do. It's just going to be more forgiving if you decide to use it on a champ, right? Because that is the one downside to Skullfort. If you decide to use your Thunderclap or whatever, Seismic Strike or Ballistic Slam or whatever, I mean, I typically use Thunderclap on Skullfort, you're essentially disincentivized to use it on bigger targets, right? It's more for taking out trash ads because you know that you're going to get the kill and you know you're going to get the refund, right? Whereas if you decide to direct that Thunderclap at a champion, you're likely not going to kill the champion with it unless they're low health, and then you're stuck without your build, right? So now Bungie is saying, well, if you do that, we're going to give you a little bit of energy back, so it's not as punishing. Amount granted varies based on the melee used. Okay. From most to least energy granted, powered melees, non-glaive, unpowered melees will knock out as active, and unpowered melees. Wait, what? Powered, non-glaive. Okay, non-glaive, unpowered melees while knockout is active. Oh, that's interesting. You get... I don't understand that. Non-glaive unpowered melees while knockout is active. That's just your knockout punches. I mean, there is no cooldown on knockout punches, is there? Like, you can just infinitely use your uncharged melee. Unpowered melees, including glaives. Okay, well, I don't... Now grants energy to arc melee abilities when hitting targets with any melee. Okay, so I see what they're saying. So now you can charge your T-clap back up just by going around punching stuff or glaving stuff. So that's also pretty good. So not only is it more forgiving on hitting targets that you don't kill, right? You'll be able to get your melee back faster. Just like you get like I don't know, probably a 50% refund if you don't kill. But you can charge it up very fast, right? So this changes like my Skullfort build, at least the one that I've been rocking on Prismatic, mainly for farming overthrows, like just fast gameplay. Because what I do there is I just run 4 stacks of armor charge with stacks on stacks and charged up, right? So I pick up 2 orbs, I've got 4 stacks, and then if I ever lose my melee, I just do 1-2 finisher and I get my melee back immediately. I mean, that's how I get around that issue. So it doesn't really change anything if I use my build the way it is. But this gives me the freedom to maybe invest different combat mods instead of those ones, so that I don't have to use like 1-2 finisher. So I guess that's pretty alright. Yeah. Stoicism, Spirit of the Bear. Just take another sip of my coffee real quick. Spirit of the Bear has inherited the changes made to Ursa. Okay, don't care. Spirit of the Horn has inherited. Okay, Thruster. Horn will now emit 4 waves in an X pattern. That's interesting. Okay. All right. So as far as exotic changes to Titan goes, in summary, Eternal Warrior on Striker, gonna be much better. Very cool. Not much better, it's just gonna last longer, so I mean, you can't go wrong with that. If you already like Eternal Warrior on Striker, and if you like Fist of Havoc, then this is just gonna be a straight up buff. So might be interested to try Titan's Ramparts, since they're buffing the barricade duration and tankiness, and then that's about it. And Skullfort, like, it just went over some pretty moderate changes, but nothing game changing. I don't really see any meta builds stemming out of these changes or anything like that. But now moving on to Warlock, Stormdancer's Brace. What does that even do? I don't know. Much like Spirit of Galanor, we wanted to tune back how much super energy you get from it, basically, to compensate. Doubled the damage benefit per stack of Ascending Amplitude. Reduce the max. Okay, so I'd have to look at what Stormdancer's Brace does. I'm pretty sure I have that exotic, because I think I have every exotic, but it's just one that I've never used. Geomag Stabilizers. Ooh, one of my favorites. Part of the charm of Geomag Stabilizers was lost when sprinting to get super was removed due to PvP issues. With the introduction of Bolt Charge to the Arc Kit, there was an opportunity to bring this experience back without breaking PvP. Okay, so this is more, the changes are more PvP oriented. Added a new perk, sprinting while near max bolt charge will top it off. Starts at 6 stacks of bolt charge. We enabled VFX or boost sparks while sprinting near max bolt charge. Increased super energy gain from ionic traces from 7% to 2%. How is that an increase? That sounds like a decrease to me. Secant filaments and spirit filaments. Like, so why did they? I don't know who's writing these TWIDs. in some instances, they tell you way further down that, oh, by the way, that change to that exotic also applies to the spirit version, right? But here they're just doing it all together in one, which makes more sense. Ever since anti-champion capabilities were expanded to work with elemental verbs inherently, secant filaments have felt like an exotic lost to the flow of time. Giving it a satisfying loop felt like a nice way to give the perk some love for both the base exotic and its spirit counterpart. Now gives class ability energy per kill while Devour is active. That's cool. That's like a nice little loop, right? You get rewarded by using your rift with filaments, and then you get rewarded with more rift energy. Okay, so I mean that's a good buff. That's great. Speaker Sight. Speaker Sight paired with Ember of Benevolence allowed Warlocks to earn a massive amount of ability energy via the healing turret, even if they and their fire team were all at full health. Speaker Sight impact should be rooted in the actual healing of injured guardians, so we are making a change to how the healing turret selects its targets. Healing turret no longer targets allies at full health. Allies need some damage done to their shields to be eligible targets. I don't know how I feel about that, because they're making it sound like Speaker Sight with Ember of Benevolence was more of like an ability spam issue, right? Because you can literally just throw a turret down and have Benevolence procced all the time for like what, 400% ability energy gains. So you can literally just spam all of your abilities thanks to Benevolence, right? So I don't know. I don't understand why they're changing who it targets, right? Because you're punishing the people that it targets instead of the ability spam issue. Like the abilities, the issue is that it procs Benevolence constantly, all the time. And so now allies are not going to have healing turret shots headed their way unless they're already damaged, right? And that could be a pretty significant nerf, because like if you're already, because you can lose health immediately, like you can die pretty fast. So I think having the healing turret shoot you even if you're full health had that forgiveness, because I mean it takes time for the shot to get to you, and in that time you could be taking damage, right? So now there's going to be a delay essentially to get your healing from a Speaker Sight turret, right? It's only going to shoot out that first shot towards you once you're injured. But I guess the intent there is, like I said, it's so that Warlocks can't go around spamming abilities at 400% gains thanks to Benevolence procs nonstop. Verity's Brow and Spirit of Verity. The Death Throws buff is quite potent, but it is easy to let it run out and lose your grenade benefit. We've updated the exotic to bring it in line with similar Titan exotic Worm God Caress stacks. Stacks of Death Throws are now represented by a meter that decays backwards through each tie rather than falling off entirely when the duration elapses. Okay. I honestly don't use Verity's Brow like ever, or Spirit of Verity, so and these look like fairly moderate changes, more like a UI change as opposed to like a damage nerf or buff. So okay. Exotic class item shared perks, so the spirit versions. Verity. I didn't wait. Does everybody get Verity? Even Titans? I can't remember. Speaking of Verity, the above changes extend to the exotic class item version as well. On top of this, we are also giving some more of the base exotic to the spirit version to help players build into grenades on Prismatic. Gained bonus grenade recharge rates, but provides 50% of the base Verity's Brow exotic. Okay. Weapons. Okay, well the exotic armor wasn't that long. How long is this weapons section here? Exotic weapons, essential. Ooh. Colony, Quicksilver. Okay, this could be... Alright, I'll try and get through this. Let's see. Lots of changes here. Hopefully it's not going to be too divided between PvP and PvE. I just really want to cover the PvE stuff. Alright. Global. Aim assistance. Some changes to aim assist. Destiny's various aim systems are a foundational part of what makes Destiny's guns feel like they do, but they do not come without some edge cases. When using the controller input, we've taken a stab at trying to solve an issue where a quickly moving target crossing your vision could pull your aim off your previous target by introducing a time-based component. We now weight aim assist against targets you've aimed at for a short time more strongly compared to brand new targets when a new target is introduced by crossing your reticle. Sorry. We understand that this is a potentially wide-reaching change, but have thus far been satisfied with the results in our playtests. Controller players, please let us know if you encounter any issues as a result of this change. Aiming at a target for a short time will prevent another target moving very quickly across your reticle from dragging your aim off of it. Controller only. Okay, so basically, console players like myself aren't going to have to deal with your aim assist taking you off the target, right? Having the absolute adverse effect of what it's supposed to do. So this could be good, this could be bad, because aim assist behaves very awkwardly at times. In all video games, frankly, it's not just Destiny. Weapon archetypes and subfamilies, PvE damage tuning. Okay, let's scroll down here. PvE damage tuning. We've tuned up some low-performing weapon families in PvE. Okay, so scout rifles, 15% damage buff versus minors, 30% versus majors. That's pretty substantial. Scout rifles, especially the good ones, definitely going to be a solid option in GMs again. Probably going to be pretty competitive with bows now, and definitely with pulse rifles, because for this last season, kind of pulse rifles is somewhat taken over scout rifles due to their buff. So now scout rifles are coming closer in line. Auto rifles, 10% versus minors and majors. So auto rifles slowly coming back up again. SMGs slowly coming back up again, 5% buff. Additionally, in 8153, we increased base damage again. Base mag size by 10 to 15%. So SMGs got the magazine buff, and then they're in Heresy. They're going to be getting a 5% buff versus minors. So that's pretty good. Minors is basically all you use SMGs for anyways, right? Unless they're specifically in the artifact as a champion counter, in which case the buff doesn't really do anything. Trace rifle, 20% versus minors. That's great. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be enough to put it on a competitive level with rocket sidearms or waveframe GLs, or what else do we use as far as specials go for, like ammo efficient special weapons, mainly for taking out red bars. So that's going to be 20%. I think that's going to be pretty good. I think that sounds like a decent buff. It should make trace rifles a lot more viable again, because they've definitely been 100% overshadowed by rocket sidearms. So keeping in mind that rocket sidearms have seen a pretty substantial nerf as far as their ammo reserves, right? So trace rifles with this buff are going to look more alluring again. Linear fusion rifles, 10% buff. Thank you. It's been needed, because LFRs are a great heavy type of weapon, and even though they've had just small nerf after small nerf, there was one point in time, like when I started playing the game heavily in Witch Queen, that's when linears were meta for essentially like 3 or 4 seasons. but they were never like really 100% the only option. Like, I mean, rockets were still very good. It's just that with the small buffs, or with the small nerfs that LFRs have had, and then all the buffs that we've seen to heavy grenade launchers, for example, and machine guns even, like, LFRs have just completely fallen out of the meta. They're essentially at the bottom as far as heavies go for dungeon and raid bosses, unless it's like a wizard boss like Ute and you're shooting a divinity bubble. I mean, linears are still applicable in certain situations, but it's gotten pretty bad. It's gotten to the point where if you need to do precision-based damage in a dungeon or raid encounter, you're going to use like an exotic, like Leviathan's Breath or Thunderlord, and that's going to outperform linears. Like even the best linears, like 4th times bait and switch Cataclysmic. I guess now you got the new Dawning linear. You've got Scintillation, the Strand one, right? So regardless of them being out of the meta for the past several seasons, I've still been farming for the best linear fusions, like as far as perk combos and all that, and I've been keeping them in my vault, enhancing them, masterworking, because I was anticipating that we would eventually get, you know, a buff to linears again. Because this is how Bungie operates. I mean, they just keep all of these buffs, and we've seen them before, right? We've seen nerfs equal to these buffs, to these weapons. It's just a constantly, it's just a cycle, right? So it's to be expected. So anyways, I'm happy about that. 10% to linears sounds freaking awesome. Now just let me enhance my Storm Chaser. That's all I want. Glaives. Okay, they did say in a previous article they're going to be making some substantial changes to glaives. Glaives have historically been a niche weapon type that has found it hard to break into mainstream usage. In this update, we're applying a sweeping buff to many of the glaives' baseline stats and behaviors to remove some of their unwieldiness and make them a more attractive and easy to use option. With these changes, the intent is that glaives become more agile and need to reload less often, are effective at longer ranges, and more forgiving, and are more impactful when completing their melee combo. Significantly increased aim assist and aim magnetism. Damage fall off ranges across the board for all glaives. Okay. I mean, that's pretty good. Like, the aim assist has always been a little wonky on glaives, at least on console. So I think this change could be pretty decent. Improved glaive projectile hit registration, increased the baseline effects at all stat values for handling speeds, including shield ready speed and draw and stow speed, mag size, projectile speed, reload speed, final hit of the melee combo deals double damage. Wow. This hit also inflicts much more flinch on PvE combatants. Interesting. The double damage on the final combo. That's probably gonna be the biggest game changer with glaive, because I mean, all of the the stat boosts and the mag size and the projectile speed, all that sounds fine, but nobody is really using glaives for the projectiles, right? Unless it's to proc close to melee, for example, right, where you need that projectile kill. But like, if you need to use a glaive at range at that point, like, you just use a fusion rifle or a shotgun or a rocket sidearm or something else, right? I mean, the glaive is definitely Vexcalibur and Winterbite are the best two. They're going to be cooked, yes. Definitely. Vexcalibur is I'm looking forward to that for sure. I love Vexcalibur. One of the best build synergy based weapons. Yeah. Double damage on the final hit in a combo. That's going to be the major game changer, right? If you're using a glaive, you're going to run around stabbing stuff. That's what you use it for. Okay, cool. Aggressive frame fusion rifle. What? We have an aggressive frame fusion rifle? this is something I didn't know about, or I'm just spacing on it. Only one aggressive frame fusion rifle exists within the game to date. Coriolis Force, issued back in Beyond Light. That's why I don't know about it. We'd like to give the subfamily a bit more love to try to sell its unique charged spread shot gameplay with a complete rework. The original fired its pellets all at once. So essentially they're saying they're going to give us more aggressive frame fusion rifles, is my takeaway, because who the hell would care about a buff to essentially a sunset weapon? Okay, don't worry, you won't have to go get Coriolis Force on Europa if you want to try these changes out. New reworked aggressive frames with new perk pools are coming. There you go, right? Okay, so I mean, all this really doesn't mean anything to me. It's just laying out kind of how they're gonna work. Support frame auto rifles. Yeah, so if you're interested in the nuances of the aggressive frame fusion rifle, you can check that out, but I'm not gonna read all that. Support frame auto rifles, right? Because we have very many of them. Well, maybe they're saying here again we're gonna get more, but as far as I know, we have one, right? It's the solar one from Pale Heart. We'd like to support more support frame auto rifles in the future. Currently, their range stat is not especially desirable because of their unique projectile properties, so we took the opportunity to make range directly affect its healing performance by adjusting how far away the weapon can lock on to and heal an ally. No Hesitation remains close to its original behavior with this change with its base stats. This change primarily affects perks and mods applied to No Hesitation, opens more space for future support frames to differentiate themselves. Range now increases how far away you can heal another Guardian. Okay. So I don't, is that a buff or a nerf? I don't know. Honestly, I didn't really absorb a lot of that information I just read. I don't really use No Hesitation, even though I do have like the God roll fully enhanced and everything. I just haven't really put it to use. Rocket assisted frame sidearms. Oh boy. Oof. What are we gonna see here? I'm a little nervous. Rocket assisted frame sidearms ship particularly potent while also being easy to use. We reduced the reserves, yes you did, and that was pretty substantial outside of Buried Bloodline. With these changes, we're moving these into a more defined niche, keeping them potent within that niche, but being a bit less universally useful in all situations. With these changes, they should remain a viable, ammo-efficient option for clearing minor, major, and champion tiered targets with direct hits without also being great at killing everything nearby the primary target. Wait. With direct hits without also being great. Okay, so essentially not as much splash damage. Reduced PvE detonation damage by 45%. I mean, yeah, like if you're shooting a pack of like 5 red bars that are just spawning, you can potentially kill like 2 or 3 of them with one rocket sidearm shot, right? Now it's just like you're probably just going to get the kill on the one that you hit. But I never spec into blast radius anyways on rocket sidearms. I just spec 100% into velocity and handling and reload. So it doesn't really affect me, I don't think, because I'm used to aiming at the targets I'm shooting and I'm going for those direct impacts. But, okay, sorry, just catching up on chat here. Nothing important here, sorry about that. By the way, Vexcalibur generates light transcendence energy whenever you give teammates overshields. What, really? I didn't know that. The running theory is its reserve damage. The running theory is its reverse damage. That's very interesting, huh? Because you are kind of applying a light ability, right? Whether it's to a teammate or an enemy. Yeah, that makes sense. Tanash's Mastery barely feels the nerf, and Buried Bloodline got buffed instead. Yeah, well, I think the main thing with Tanash's, right, is the God roll with air trigger, right? If you have extended mag or high explosive ordnance with air trigger, and then you throw a backup mag on there, yeah, rocket sidearms never got nerfed. I mean, they still have the same amount of reserves, but you can look at it from the other side and be like, well, you're giving up an entire perk to make it feel like it was never nerfed. So there's that. Because personally, my favorite combo on Tanashas is Deconstruct and Chill Clip, right? But then then the nerf is a little bit more noticeable. Like, you do have to use Special Finisher essentially, or play more carefully into making sure that your special's topped up. But yeah, like, the damage is still crazy. I mean, if you can keep your special ammo needs completely fed, then yeah, rocket sidearms were never nerfed. And I think most people are smart enough to play into that, right? So, but yeah, so the blast radius essentially is being nerfed by 45%. Increased PvE impact damage by 100%. So, I mean, that to me completely outweighs the blast radius nerf. Rocket sidearms are now going to do double damage. Double damage on direct impacts, but that's how you should be looking at it anyways. You shouldn't really be spamming rocket sidearms like they're a grenade launcher. So that is extremely good. Reduced aim assist fall off and maximum distance by 8 meters. Aim assist fall off. So reduce the aim assist fall off. So that means it's essentially getting a range buff as far as aim assist. Reduced magnetism fall off and maximum distance by 8. All this is pretty much meaningless until we know how the new aim assist and magnetism values feel on console, right? Because there's going to be some major changes, as they already went over there for aim assist. So we'll have to see how the global buff to aim assist or rework feels. Reduced damage by 30% versus boss, vehicle, and mini boss targets. That's fine, because I mean, they're okay for taking out champs and stuff like that. But I like, compared to a shotgun or a fusion rifle, or even a grenade launcher, like, those are still the preferable special ammo weapon types that you would use on beefier targets. Like, rocket sidearms have always kind of been heavily meant for red bars and orange bars, right? Weaker enemies. Not bad, but I generally prefer more ammo. I run Tanashas and Vex Caliber with prismatic Titan ammo is really easy to keep. Yeah, I do like. I'm not usually huge on double special builds, but it definitely makes sense with rocket sidearms because they're generally ammo efficient, even with the nerf. And glaives, of course, because you can always just revert to not even using the glaive projectile. You don't really have to, especially with Vex Caliber. I mean, just block and get your overshield and stab stuff. Yeah, 97.5% DR is crazy. Super fun. Big fan. Okay, what else about the rocket sidearms? Reduced damage by 30% versus bosses, right? We just read that. But Buried Bloodline's body shot damage is unaffected. Critical hit is buffed by 8%. So Buried Bloodline gets its own unique changes here. Essentially, Buried Bloodline is getting buffed because of inadvertently. Essentially, it's getting buffed and intentionally with the 8% crit, right? But it's inadvertently getting buffed because rocket sidearms are getting nerfed in some ways. Buffed in other ways, like doing double damage on impact, huge buff, right? To me, that outweighs the nerfs. The range stat was vestigial to the weapon subfamily, so we've removed it. Range, Masterworks, and Enhanced Vestigial. There's another word I gotta look up. Vestigial. What the heck does that mean? Something to do with vestige. Forming a very small remnant of something that was once much larger or noticeable. Okay. A remnant of its former self, essentially. Vestigial to the weapon. Okay. Whatever. Exotic weapons, right? So, okay, so that's it for archetypes and weapon types. Big changes to glaives. Aggressive frame fusion rifles. There's going to be some of those coming if you don't have one, because they only existed in Beyond Light, apparently. Just one of them. Support frame auto rifles. Maybe we'll get more of those. Who knows? Rocket assisted frame sidearms. Big changes, right? So now on to exotic weapons. Lawrence Driver. Lawrence Driver was once a terror in the Crucible and has since caught a number of changes to his efficacy. Let me just read the bullet points here. Picking up a bounty tag now grants 1 ammo to the mag. Triggering Lagrangian sight by picking up a bounty tag adds 6 ammo to the mag the first time you trigger it. Returns to adding 1 ammo per tag on extensions while the buff remains active. I mean, you guys will have to tell me about that, because I have Lawrence Driver. I've never used it. I don't even have the catalyst. So yeah, I don't know about that. Really eyeball the arc heavy exotics. Okay, I hear ya. Delicate Tomb. We've made a few adjustments to Delicate Tomb to help get it into its Tempest Cascade loop a bit more predictably and give it significantly more punch while buffed. Increase the chance to make ionic trace for minor combatants from 4 to 10%. Increase PvE damage bonus on the Tempest Cascade shot from 30 to 100%. That's pretty big buff. The Tempest Cascade shot, I guess that's when you just have, like when you collect the ionic trace, if memory serves me right, that's when you get the buffed shot, right? You essentially load the weapon with traces and you do more damage. Remove the timer from Tempest Cascade. Lasts until fired. Okay. Well, that sounds good, because Delicate Tomb is a very cool weapon. It's just kind of awkward as a fusion rifle with its horizontal spread. It's almost like a wave frame GL that's, that doesn't travel along the ground. It's a weird weapon, but it's very good. Like, if you can get into a loop with it, like, it was already pretty good. So that's going to be interesting. Darcy. Okay, so there's an arc heavy weapon. Darcy has long struggled to compete with its exotic brethren, so we are taking a stab at building a niche for it in Fireteam, the way Gjallarhorn and Ergo Sum have found for their respective weapon types. Wow, okay, that sounds extremely interesting. This new catalyst should give you an edge up in encounters where snipers may not previously been viable. Okay. Added a new catalyst perk, Networked Targeting. Hits with Personal Assistant active grant you and nearby allies improved overall weapon performance and precision damage with non-exotic sniper rifles. Improves recoil, flinch, target acquisition, handling, and precision damage. Stacks up to 5 times. Darcy also gets this buff itself. Darcy users also get 15% damage after granting 5 stacks to a teammate. So they're not saying how much damage it gives to everybody else. I'm guessing it's 15%. Maxes out at 30% more damage. Okay. Interesting. It's kind of weird. They didn't really explain this very well. So does that mean nothing important here? Are you saying, like, are legendary snipers going to get this 15% damage buff, or are they also getting something similar to a 30% damage buff? Maybe there's some outside information I don't know about here. But either way, I love this. It's kind of like the function of a Divinity or a Gjallarhorn or Wolfpack on ergo sum, right? I think it's gonna help snipers a lot, right? And the fact that we're getting linears buffed as well, right? This kind of tells me that as far as like precision damage based encounters and dungeons and raids, there's going to be some interesting stuff going on. It's basically Sniper's Meditation plus 15% more damage for Darcy when someone maxes out at 5 stacks. Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. So essentially Darcy and all the other sniper rifles get the buff from Darcy, but then Darcy gets extra benefits for giving the buff out to others, right? So in a fire team setting, Darcy is going to be getting a bigger buff. In a solo setting, Darcy is going to be getting a lesser buff. Or maybe no buff at all if you're solo. I don't know. But yeah, that sounds super, super interesting. I like that. Very cool. Okay. Edge of Action, Edge of Concurrence, Edge of Intent. Somehow I have not deleted those glaives, even though I never use them. The classic exotic glaives have felt a bit clunky since their addition to the game. Yeah, you've already told us that like 10 times that you didn't do a good job on them, and you've made no changes to them. So let's see what you did now. We've made some changes here along with the global changes to glaives that will help. Yes. Okay. All exotic class glaives. Special shot is no longer tied to glaive energy. Now triggered on 6 weapon hits to allow the special reload. Increments off both shots and melee hits. That makes no difference to me. Edge of Concurrence effects of jolting feedback trait added. Okay, that's good, right? Because I mean, Edge of Concurrence was just a worse Trinity Ghoul already. Like Trinity Ghoul activates on every kill, whereas the chain lightning that you get from Edge of Concurrence was like you had to build it up and then load it and then shoot it and then wait a long time to get it again. So at least now that they're giving it a jolting feedback, an actual buff related to the arc subclass, that's going to allow you to play into build crafting a lot more. It's going to allow you to stun overloads. It's going to allow you to get damage reduction from other enemies via overload. But because the thing is, jolting feedback works on sustained damage, right? That's the weapon perk, jolting feedback, right? That we get with like pyroelectric propellant and the new pulse rifle and all that stuff. And it takes like several sustained hits to proc it, just like kinetic tremors. So how's that going to work on a glaive? That's my question there. But either way, very interesting. Edge of Action, effects of destabilizing rounds added to its intrinsic perk. So I imagine that would be on every shot, or is that going to be on like the energized shot that you got to get 6 hits with first to get a destabilizing round shot? I see the intention here. They're making the glaives more deterministic instead of having to wait, which leads to deaths. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can't remember how it worked before. Like I seem to remember it like you had to build up the glaive energy to load the special action shot, whereas essentially now you're just having to it's essentially the same requirement. I mean, you have to get hits to build up your glaive energy, right? Whereas now you just have to get hits to build up your perk. So I don't really see how it's gonna make a huge difference, but I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. And like I said, I haven't used these glaives in a long time. Edge of Intent is getting incandescent. Awesome. Added Cure to the Pulse. Super cool. Healing Turret no longer targets allies at full health. Okay, so they gave it the Speaker Sight nerf, but I mean, it's still not going to give you Resto ×2, right? Like I imagine. But they're giving it curing pulses, so that's pretty good. And incandescent, I mean, you can't really go wrong with incandescent, even though it's probably only going to apply to the projectile shot, of course. So it does encourage you to spam the projectile. It's keeping the jolt on wave kill, but now has a secondary jolt source. Okay. Oh, so I did. Yeah, I think I forgot, or I didn't realize that the wave already had jolt on it. Didn't they? Like they added that with sometime in the final shape or something like that, didn't they? I know initially it was just like a standard arc damage. It wasn't like any, there was no like verb attached to it. Solar Glaive is the best one now. Okay. Howdy the Coppers. I didn't even know ads were playing. I know it, like the live stream is monetized. I just didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know that. But thanks, the Coppers. I appreciate that. Yeah. So Edge of Intent. I mean, yeah, Edge of Intent sounds the most interesting to me for sure. I think because as far as endgame goes, having that cure, that's going to be pretty good. Centrifuge. Centrifuge's perks that reloads the mag while sprinting encourages pivoting and repositioning, but as it stands, the magazine is just a tad restrictive and somewhat feels burdensome in PvE. Increased mag size to 45. From what? I don't even know what it was at before. Like 40? 35? I run arc loaders. I run loaders for any weapons that I'm using as a bread and butter weapon anyway, so, I mean, mag size doesn't really, it's not really a game changer for me. First glaive rework was in Season of the Seraph. Okay. For those glaives, you mean? Yeah, because I feel like we've had a lot of glaive reworks, at least 3 or 4 major ones, semi-major ones, since they came out. Okay, so yeah, just whatever to centrifuge. Maybe that's something. Well, they're specifying it as being burdensome in PvE, but I would have thought with such a minor change like that, it would have been something more noticeable in PvP. Anyway, Dead Messenger, Hardlight, and Borealis. So the weapons that you can switch between elemental functions. We're revisiting the exotic perk, the Fundamentals, right? I guess they all have the Fundamentals perk, as I just described it, to modernize it a bit. Elemental keywords such as Restoration and Volatile have become a part of Destiny 2's modern fundamentals. Wow, okay, that's cool. The stat bonus based on current element has been removed in favor of a damage bonus when you apply or receive an elemental keyword matching the current element. That's better. Like, yeah, because I remember they gave it like elemental capacitor a while back, essentially, right? So that if you were on a specific element damage type, you'd be getting some stat buffs, right? But this is way more interesting to me. We're also giving a small stat bump to Borealis since some high skill PvP players have taken a liking to its current stat offerings. The Fundamentals new effect grants a 30% damage buff to this weapon for 10 seconds when you apply or receive an elemental keyword that matches the currently select damage type of this weapon. Okay. For 10 seconds when you apply. Oh, okay, I see. So the way I'm reading that is now, so say you're on, it has to match the keyword. So say you're on Warlock, spamming Restoration, right? By any means, whether it's from Heal Clip, Ember of Empyrean, a healing grenade, your speaker sight turret, you're applying, you're getting Restoration for yourself. Because of that, you automatically get a 30% damage buff to the solar damage type on Dead Messenger, Hardlight, and Borealis. That's pretty cool. So this is going to be like, this is really going to allow you to build craft around those weapons, right? They're going to synergize with different builds, so that's super cool. Basically use fundamental weapons with exotic class items. Okay. Yeah, well, I can see, like, I'm not exactly sure if you mean anything specific by that, but that sounds like that makes complete sense. Because, like I just said, like, you're going to be able to synergize into builds and exotic, well, I mean, exotics in general can do similarly. Remove the effect, no longer grants different stat. Yeah, okay, so they removed the elemental capacitor type of bonus that they gave it a while ago. For Borealis, only increased stability by 20 and aim assist by 10 to permanently grant it the void element bonus that we'll no longer have access to, right? Okay, so they're keeping that part of that elemental capacitor thing. This bonus was selected over Arc since there are more ways to gain handling, right? Okay. And so that's only when you're on Void. So you get volatile on Void. So this is what so the weapons themselves aren't giving you buffs, such as those. Like, you're not going to get restoration from Dead Messenger itself or volatile. The way I'm reading this is you're going to get a damage buff to Dead Messenger if you have access to volatile by other means or restoration by other means, right? Spirit of Eternal Warrior would stack. Speaker's Sight would make Fundamentals weapon very interesting. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Spirit of Eternal Warrior would stack. Well, yeah, I guess any surges would stack, right? Because they're not saying it's like a 30% empowering buff, or one that normally they would specify if it doesn't stack with like radiant or empowering buffs, or if it doesn't stack with surges. They're not being very specific here, so I imagine it would stack with surges, which is all Eternal Warrior does anyways. It just gives you more than you can get otherwise at 4 stacks. Same with Foe Tracer. And I guess, what is it, Sanguine Alchemy gives you ×4 surges too. Okay, cool. Telesto. I'm definitely going to be revisiting Dead Messenger, because that is, Hardlight was like one of the first exotics I got when I really started playing Destiny 2. So I did use it a lot back then. Kind of nice with those ricochet rounds. It's actually a really good AR. It just feels outdated. So this is going to be a nice change to it for sure. But yeah, I do like Dead Messenger. It has an extremely wide wave frame, right? So as far as its damage wave, so that's pretty cool. As far as Telesto is a solid weapon, but it lacks a solid point. Okay, I'm just gonna quit reading so much of the non-specific stuff. Harbinger's Pulse now only refills Telesto's ammo reserves instead of Telesto, and your kinetic slot weapon now triggers with Void Final Blow. Final Blow requirement increased from 2 to 3. However, Telesto Final Blow's current count double. In other words, will trigger from 2. Catalyst new perk Harbinger's Seath. After 3 activations of Harbinger's Pulse, special reload the weapon to cause a rain of Telesto projectiles on your next direct hit. Okay, that's kind of cool, I guess. Sounds interesting. That sounds visually interesting. So yeah, I'll probably farm out that Catalyst, because I've never really used Telesto. I do have it, but I just never used it, never became adept at it, and don't really know much about it other than it breaks the game all the time apparently. Vexcalibur. Okay, so here we go. I'm assuming you already knew about this. Nothing important here. With the buffs last season to void Overshield's effectiveness, it seemed like the weapon could use a few tweaks to take maximum advantage and emphasize the Paladin Protector fantasy with its area Overshield. We've made it easier to generate guard energy in PvE when wading through enemies, and quicker to apply overshields to your allies. As a weapon made to hunt and kill the Vex, we figured this was also a good opportunity to reinforce this theme as well. Maybe they gave it that origin trait that the Echo's weapons had, triggering Perpetual Loophole by scoring a melee kill with your overshield when your overshield is active, which is basically close to melee, right? Now also fills your glaive energy to full. Okay. Well, that's pretty good. So essentially you're going to have more shield uptime, like glaive shield specifically, not the overshield. Slightly increased void overshield trickle-on rate to nearby allies and yourself when guarding. Okay, So more trickling overshields for everybody. Increase the potency of Vexcalibur's secret innate advantages against the Vex. Vexcalibur's secret damage bonus when striking with its projectiles against a certain enemy faction has been increased from 10 to 25% to match Wishender and Malfeasance. Right, so Wishender and Malfeasance get bonuses to Taken enemies. So now Vexcalibur is going to get bonuses to Vex enemies. Vexcalibur now briefly disorients non-boss Vex with its melee. What? Oh my god. Okay, so by the way, like, I think my most popular build video on my channel is the Vexcalibur one for Onslaught. I'm definitely going to be revisiting that build in some way and seeing how these changes affect it. Vexcalibur has replenishing Aegis, by the way. That's one of the catalyst options, right? Like, you have one of 4 perks to pick. I think I picked the Grave Robber one. You can face tank Brockazon and his turrets on GM difficulty with Vexcalibur. Okay, cool. That's cool because wait, is Brockazon is arms dealer, right? That's interesting. I get Proving Grounds confused with arms dealer. But whenever I think of glaives, as far as GMs go, I always think of Proving Grounds and Lightblade for tanking the fireballs in the boss room and for tanking Alakul's arc blasts. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so it's going to be even better now. Wardcliff Coil. All right, another arc heavy weapon. Wardcliff Coil is a classic weapon that is easy to use but lacks a niche in a lot of content. We want to double down on the effect. New intrinsic effect grants 1 stack of bolt charge to all nearby allies for every 2 rockets fired. 4 stacks per trigger pull. Okay. 4 stacks per trigger pull. That's pretty cool, I guess. So I guess there's going to be some kind of niche build that you can do on Titan with the new aspect, with the barricade aspect, where you can shoot bolt charge shots out of your weapons and get bolt charge back from Wardcliff Coil. I'm kind of foreseeing something there. Other than that, it seems like kind of a weird perk to add to it. Queenbreaker. Okay, another arc heavy weapon. Players can special reload at any time to swap between scopes. Marksman's sight retains the previous behavior of firing a single shot that chains nearby targets and blinds them. The range of the chain has increased from 8 to 10 meters to chaining easier. Combat sights now alters the weapon to fire 3-round bursts at a charge time of 533. Sustained damage on a target decreases the charge time of the weapon down to 300. I honestly don't know enough about Queenbreaker to say what this is doing for it. It sounds like it's a buff. And as far as I know, it needed a buff, even though it's had a few reworks itself. Like they gave it Arc Blind a while ago, so you can use it in like unstoppable content. Colony. The previous changes to the colony did some interesting things, but it still ends up losing out. Blah blah blah. Increased detonation damage by 40%. This puts its damage per shot a little above legendary drum GLs. Okay. Per shot, right? So what is the archetype that colony is related to? If it shoots at a similar fire rate to other heavy grenade launchers, then having more damage per shot is pretty substantial. Increased number of bots spawned by 1 for all enemy tiers except players. Okay. Ignition's bolt charges. Wardcliff is specifically a total damage increase. But are you going to be able to apply the bolt charge through Wardcliff, or are you just getting stacks of bolt charge and then you have to use your melee, right? It's just making your melee better, isn't it? Top tier in solos. Yeah, I've seen it used in solos. And yeah, that's an absolutely great point about Tormentors. Like, I like one of my favorite things to use on Tormentors is chill clip on a linear fusion rifle. like Fire and Forget or the new one, the Suspectum or whatever it is. Because as long as you're far enough away, it's actually pretty easy to pop Tormentor's shoulders with linears, and then you're constantly applying Chill Clip to control them, right? At least the non-boss tier Tormentors. So yeah, Queenbreaker doing this essentially the same thing with Blind. Yeah, I never thought about that. I just haven't used it. I haven't used it a lot myself. Quicksilver Storm. The previous changes to this weapon were a little too much. Yeah, I agree. So we have rolled those back some. Reduced shots required to trigger rocket by 17%. Okay, so like the way it works now, post nerf to Quicksilver, which is why everybody dropped it and nobody used it anymore, essentially, is because you can only build up 3 grenades by landing every single shot in an entire magazine, whereas before you used to be able to build up GL shots like much faster. Right, okay, yeah, so you are referring to like what I was saying there with the arc aspect on Titan, because then you'll be able to shoot it straight out of the weapon. Yeah, fair point. Legend of Acreus. I'm happy about that Quicksilver Storm. It's only a 17% reversion of the or buff, right? Where was it at before? And like how much did they nerf it? They nerfed it by like 50%, I want to say, at least something like that, as far as the grenade recharge rate goes. So small buff to something that was already heavily nerfed. So we'll see how that goes. Legend of Acreus, reduced spread angle by 33%. Okay, so I imagine that's also going to make it more viable to use at range. Increased maximum projectile range from and there you go, and they're increasing the projectile range, right? So they're going to make it's going to have a tighter pellet spread, less damage fall off, and yeah, so it's going to be just better. So it would be better for builds that have ranged melees, specifically for proccing Trench Barrel. That's good. I mean, that's pretty much in line with what Bungie has said that they want to start doing to shotguns, is they want to increase their effective range in PvE, since nobody really uses them. 48 shots to get QSS grenades, now about 40 shots, right? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I guess if you do the numbers, 17%. That's good, because it's definitely like having to use essentially the entire magazine to get those 3 grenades made it extremely unforgiving, right? Because if you miss a few shots, then you're not getting those 3 stacks in the mag, and then you're reloading, and then you got to do the special reload. So it's just kind of like, it was just lethargic to use it. So I think even to 17%, having that extra forgiveness on there to build up your GL shots, I think that's going to be a pretty good reversion of the nerf. Fourth Horseman has also been particularly niche. One weapon that I've been dying to get into that I haven't, because this again was something that released before my era in Destiny 2, pre-Witch Queen. I don't know when Fourth Horseman came out, but I've seen what it has done. So yeah, what did they do? Reduce the rate of fire slightly to give it more control over wasting shots. Loads ammo from reserves to the magazine for every kill. I guess that's okay. I mean, as far as I know, it's more of like a burst damage option versus champs and bosses, stuff like that. So I'm not too sure how the essentially subsistence effect is going to do for it, unless you're actually killing weaker enemies regularly. Lord of Wolves, again, like Fourth Horseman, I haven't really used it. Success, something to do with Choir 1. Okay, what are they saying here? We've taken a similar approach to redesigning it, inspired by Choir of 1, essentially. Increased range, reduced base damage, removed accuracy penalties from standard fire mode, release the wolves now triggers on hip fire instead of special reload, fires full auto, greatly increased damage and rate of fire, reduced accuracy and range. Okay, reduced accuracy and range on that perk, but overall increased range. Catalyst. Reload speed and stability boost are now built in. When released, the wolves is active, dealing damage to targets, scorches them. Okay, so that's a good PvE change. Give it some solar affinity. When ADS defeating targets, spread scorch to nearby combatants. Okay, I mean, cool. I mean, the catalyst sounds legit. Like, I would definitely, again, with this being a weapon that I haven't really used, don't know much about. Now I'm kind of incentivized to go and farm out the finish out the catalyst and see how that does in Heresy. Released in Season of the Worthy. That was before Beyond Light. Okay. Now viable on orange bars, basically. I got you. Okay. Well, I hope to start using it because it's a really cool weapon. I've seen like even today I've seen like some speedrunners using it as well. Cloud Strike. Wow, Bungie's really hitting the weapons that I don't have. Cloud Strike. The only reason I don't have Cloud Strike is because I have to farm Empire Hunts, and like I said, I didn't hop on Destiny 2 until Witch Queen, so there's not really anybody playing Empire Hunts, and I just don't really feel like it. So, and apparently Cloud Strike is going to be like available. Well, isn't it available right now with the bento tokens or something? I haven't looked into the bento tokens at all. But yeah, it sounds like Cloud Strike is accessible outside of Empire Hunts, if that currently, maybe in the future. So yeah, I hope so, because I do want. That is the only exotic that I don't have, essentially. That and Vexcalibur. The other ones I have, I just haven't used. Not Vexcalibur, sorry. What's the one from Vault of Glass? The linear fusion AR. It's too antithetical to shotgun identity, hence why it didn't work. Originally had the ADS and full auto. Okay, so it was kind of awkward before. Gotcha. So they made some changes to Cloud Strike since it's gonna have some bolt charge now. For bolt charge abilities are the only way to discharge max stacks unless you're behind a striker Stormkeeper barricade, right? Stormkeep barricade. Yeah, I keep forgetting the name of the aspect. That's what we were talking about. These changes allow Cloud Strike to quickly build stacks, which can help bring your melee abilities faster thanks to bolt charge, or cash it in quickly with an extra bolt charge lightning attack when paired with Storm's Keep. Added behavior to Stormbringer perk. Rapid precision hits create a lightning storm at the point of impact and grants a stack of bolt charge. Okay, added behavior to Mortal Polarity perk. Precision final blows generate a lightning bolt at the target's location, grants a moderate amount of bolt charge. So it's kind of weird that they're putting the sentence in here. They're like giving you a little hint here. Use Striker Storm Barricade to make Cloud Strike better with bolt charge, but why didn't they include that sentence with Wardcliff Coil, for example? Right, it's essentially the same thing. Right, so it's not like Striker Stormkeep is doing anything specific for Cloud Strike. It literally gives every weapon bolt charge, or the ability to discharge bolt charge through the weapon, right? I think they're just kind of hinting that this is going to be a very good synergy. Yeah, they leaned into Cloud Strike's total damage. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like I said, I'm dying to just get Cloud Strike and use it in a damage rotation, mainly on a dungeon or raid boss. I've totally missed out on like the whole Crux Termination, Cloud Strike, meta swapping damage loadout. Like I haven't been able to do that. And especially right now, because I guess right now with Cloud Strike being a precision-based weapon with all the arc perks, Trace Evidence, and the other one where you can get the blind on precision hits, like you could do some crazy stuff with arc with Cloud Strike right now, and I'm missing out. They're turning Arc Titan into a weapons platform. Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm looking forward to it, for sure. The question for me is it going to be something that's just going to be kind of trendy, like in the same way that hazardous propulsion was, like for buffing rockets, or or is this going to be something that's better and a little bit have a little bit more staying power than hazardous propulsion? Because a lot of people just moved away from that real quick. I don't have a Discord. The only Discord I have is it's not even mine, it's my son's. My son has a Discord for his stream and community, and my wife and I kind of hitch on to his Discord because I don't really know how to use Discord. But it's something that I will probably eventually do. Arc Titan has an identity now. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm most excited about the changes to Arc Titan, for sure. And it's going to be interesting because it's definitely in contrast to like the Touch of Thunder Storm Grenade meta that we had in Plunder and Seraph. Right, this isn't going to be grenade spam. This is going to be either melee spam with Knockout and Juggernaut. I foresee a build there. Or, like you said, providing essentially bolt charge to all your teammates, being a weapons platform, and being able to use bolt charge with your weapons, like in dungeon raid bosses. So it's gonna have a couple different good builds, I think, that are very enticing sounding. Increased grenade functionality with Touch of Thunder and Storm Keep. Aggression doesn't necessarily need to punch. No, yeah. Yeah, you can use both. I know, I was thinking of that. Because the question is, how spammable is Stormkeep gonna be? And how good is it? Like, is that bolt charge discharge going to do damage on par with like a grenade? And if it does, and if you do it often, then you might not even need Touch of Thunder grenades. Like, it might be overkill at that point, right? So you might be able to just keep Knockout and spam your melee when you need to. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of different ways to play into it. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, I'm super stoked. Added behavior to Stormbringer perk. Okay, rapid precision hits create lightning storm. Okay, I think I already read that. Thunderlord. Since Cloudstrike was updated with Bolt Charge, it was only natural to turn our sights to the original lightning creating menace. For Thunderlord, our goal was to also tie into what Thunderlord is already doing and reinforce its gameplay mechanic, which is generating lightning and through sustained fire. Similar to Cloudstrike, this means Thunderlord will be great at building stacks and melee ability energy, but also get an extra kick with a Bolt Charge lightning attack when paired with Storm's Keep. It added the behavior to Rain Havoc perk. Final blows with this weapon generate lightning strikes from above. Lightning strikes grant a stack of Bolt Charge. So basically that's the only change. All that to say, lightning strikes grant a stack of Bolt Charge. Okay, good. Weapon perks, destabilizing rounds. Destabilizing rounds has been a bit behind its... Wait, so we're done with exotic weapons. Alright, done with exotic armor. Done with exotic weapons. Hoping that we're close to the end of the meat and bones, or the meat and potatoes of this TWID. Because I'm not going to be reading the non-relevant stuff. Weapon perks. Okay, this is interesting. Destabilize rounds. Now grants volatile rounds for 2 seconds if any targets are hit by the volatile burst from the initial final blow. Reduced internal cooldown from 4 seconds to 1.5 seconds. Wow, okay. I mean, that's... 2 seconds is not much, but essentially destabilizing rounds is giving you access to anti-barrier now. right? And more volatile explosions, because you'll be able to immediately apply a volatile as opposed to having to kill something to spread volatile. When you get that volatile rounds for 2 seconds, you can focus any enemy with those rounds and apply the volatile, right? So now they're volatile. You didn't have to kill anything near them. You just created a volatile target. And I guess situationally, like I said, you'll be able to break barrier shields. But with only 2 seconds, that might be kind of awkward. You'd have to time it. Reduced internal cooldown from 4 seconds to 1.5 seconds. Okay, sounds pretty interesting. Void Titan is 18. Destabilizing rounds help echo of instability with causing explosions faster. Echo of instability that's the one that gives you volatile rounds on grenade kills, right? But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be definitely good on whatchamacallit, controlled demolition. I mean, whenever I think of destabilized rounds, I immediately think about controlled demo, because it is the best perk for that sentinel build, with the volatile build, because it's just free. It's like you don't need volatile rounds. It's just make stuff volatile, heal yourself, heal your allies. Very good perk. Like, redundant on Hunter though, even though my favorite volatile build in the game is Gerfalcon's. Destabilized rounds is useless on Hunter, because essentially you're giving up a potential damage perk to spread volatile, which you're already doing anyways. Wellspring. Oh, that's interesting. What's funny about that is that harsh language is like one of my favorite weapons. I have mine that I use is specifically on Gerfalcon's though, in contrast to what yours is would be good for, I imagine, which would be really good on controlled demo with destabilizing. I didn't even know it rolled with destabilizing rounds, but it does. I think it has repulsor in the same column as destabilizing, maybe. But I've got stats for all and repulsor brace on mine, so I could just spam the crap out of it on Gerfalcon's, and it's like a waveframe forbearance, but void. And I never see nobody uses it, but it's absolutely insane on the right build. So I could see what you're saying with destabilizing on controlled demo. That would be nuts. But yeah, that's overall a really good change to destabilize rounds. It makes it a lot more interesting. Full court. With the release and popularity of area denial GLs, we've gone back and added support to them on this perk. Now scales the detonation and burn damage of area denial GLs. What area denial GL do we even have with full court? I don't think we have any, do we? So they're saying that they're going to be giving us an area denial GL with full court. Burn damage now scales the detonation and burn damage. I think that's just a universal term, burn damage, but we don't have a solar area denial GL, just saying. So are we going to get one with full court or incandescent or something like that? Yeah, it does sound goated. Ambitious Assassin. Remove time requirement on the perk to make it more comparable to Envious Assassin, as this perk requires you to use some ammo for the weapons this perk is on. Removed both multi-kill and reload timers. Okay. I don't really use Ambitious Assassin. Even my forbearance, I have Unrelenting on it. So yeah, I can't really say a whole lot about that. Flash Counter. Very interesting perk on swords. Apparently it's just never really worked as intended. Like, it just doesn't work, which is unfortunate, because I've even fully enhanced this perk thinking I was going to do like absolutely insane damage with a niche sword build. New one in the dungeon or season. The area denial GL with full court, yeah, probably Self-procking overflow. Okay. Okay, so what did they do to flash counter? Weaken and slow. Wait. Additionally, flash counter muddied our elemental rules by applying weaken and slow off the void element and stasis element. Huh. We've opened the activation condition to trigger a blast in front of you while guarding against any damage, increase the damage of the blast, and made it disorient combatants. Reworked it to read, taking damage after guarding emits a disorienting blast. Okay, that sounds like it's more user-friendly. No longer requires a timed input or melee to trigger, right? Yeah, because that was the awkwardness about it, I think. I can't remember because there's a few perks that work on swords similarly to flash counter. But as far as applying the weaken, I think before you had to like block damage and then immediately melee, and then you can apply weaken. But even then, it didn't work all the time. Deals moderate damage and a large cone in front of you disorients combat. So now you're gonna disorient enemies. So you're gonna blind enemies, and I think didn't it blind before? I don't remember. Anyways, we'll see if this is actually going to be a usable perk now or not, because in theory, it could be one of the best perks on swords, period. Especially if it rolls on the left and you can roll it with a damage perk beside it. Only works within guard right now. Only works within guard. Draw O Coward. Our PvP focused article sheds some light on trials. Okay. Nightfall. Lotus Eater. Okay, so they're talking about the weapons here. Ritual weapons. Leaving and going, I'm guessing. Nightfall. Lotus Eater. Avoid rocket assisted sidearm. Oh, what? We're getting a legendary void rocket sidearm. So, because it's in the Nightfall, what model of rocket sidearm are they gonna just copy paste and slap a new skin on? That's the only thing I hate about Nightfall weapons, is they never get creative with the models. Oh, on guard, I got you. Countering right after blocking. Yeah, okay, that was my understanding. On guard is a 30% damage increase when you hit right after blocking a hit. Right, yeah, that they work similarly, right? I guess you can stack them. Okay, but I'm super excited about a Void Rocket Sidearm for the legendary weapons. And they're telling you what it rolls with. Oh, this is juicy. Third column. Strategist, Feeding Frenzy, Well-Rounded, Shoot to Loot, Beacon Rounds, Reconstruction. I mean, rocket sidearms are so fast to reload. Like, even if you're not spec'd into reload, that I don't foresee reconstruction being super necessary. Beacon rounds, I've never really been a huge fan. Shoot to loot, not really a huge fan on shoot to loot for special weapons. Strategist though, I mean I don't personally have any weapons with strategist. I haven't built into that at all, but that could be one of the better options here, just looking at these. Fourth column, One for All, redacted. So in other words, new perk coming from the dungeon or from Nightfalls or just in general. What's it gonna be? See, why didn't they give it Withering Gaze? That would have been good. Good for Ugosum, fire teams trash elsewhere. Yeah, that makes sense. I always do carry a wolf pack or Ugosum though, for that reason. High Ground, Reverberation, Frenzy, Adrenaline Junkie. Okay, Frenzy sounds solid. I mean, if you do get Frenzy, then you definitely don't need Reconstruction or Well-Rounded. Doesn't Well-Rounded give you... I think Well-Rounded gives you... It gives you some pretty good stat buffs when you throw a grenade, if I remember right. Don't need Feeding Frenzy. Frenzy is Reverberation. Like, they still what I don't know what reverberation is gonna do. I kept a reverberation one for all Tanash's Mastery to test. I haven't tested it yet though. I don't know what reverberation is gonna do. I know it increases blast radius, but we're gonna be getting nerfed blast radius on rocket sidearms anyways by a substantial amount. So that makes this perk, well, either even less relevant or even more relevant. It's hard to say, but not relevant for me because I don't care about blast radius on rocket sidearms. I just want projectile speed and I want to hit the target. So one for all is going to be solid, very solid. So you can go one for all with like a reload perk like Feeding Frenzy, or you shoot to loot even, right? Automatic reload or reconstruction. But yeah, sounds pretty good to me. Palindrome, arc adaptive hand cannon. That's a 140, right? I can't remember. I think I had one palindrome way back. Closing time, elemental capacitor, explosive payload, outlaw to the pain. I don't see any kinetic tremors. There's 2 redacted perks that we don't know about. I can see void rocket sidearm, stasis rocket sidearm, then insert exotic rocket for hazardous propulsion. Rip Nation of Beasts. What's Nation of Beasts again? Yeah, hazardous propulsion. I actually made like an entire weapon loadout on Dim just for hazardous propulsion. So I'm gonna be adding that the new Lotus Eater into that. So if I do feel like going back onto a hazardous propulsion build, I'll have a good array of weapons now. But yeah, Palindrome doesn't sound like it's going to be anything useful in PvE unless these redacted perks are... We don't know what that is, so who knows. Vanguard Ops, Sinosure, Strand Aggressive Rocket Launcher. Thank you. They gave us the precision one from one of the Eva Levante events and that crowning duologue, right? They gave us the high impact from season of the Witch. So we've got what? We have 2 Strand grenade launchers, even though Strand's been out for nearly a year and a half. And we never got an aggressive or an adaptive. So now we actually have a meta frame for a Strand rocket launcher. So that's exciting. It's from Vanguard Ops though, so it's going to be a copied model from some other weapon with a new skin on it, which is not super exciting looks wise, but I mean it's kind of a vain statement, I guess. So what does it roll with? The new Strand Aggressive Rocket Launcher, Sinosure. Reconstruction, Envious Arsenal, Slice, Demolitionist, Field Prep, Tracking Module, Sympathetic Arsenal, Impulse Amplifier, Ambitious Assassin, Clown Cartridge, Danger Zone, Overflow. Okay. So, I mean, Envious Arsenal is going to be a no-brainer. Reconstruction, Field Prep, and... yeah, I'm liking Field Prep personally. And Envious Arsenal. So if I have a damage rotation in mind with other weapons, I'll use Envious. Otherwise, if I just want to do sustained damage, then I'm gonna go Field Prep for more rockets. Good for Euphony setups. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Fourth column: Magnificent Howl, Snapshot, Master of Arms, Opening Shot, Desperate Measures. Oh wait, I just read the Palindrome perks, my bad. Vanguard Ops. Chain Reaction, Explosive Light. Never go wrong with Explosive Light. Bipod. What's the redacted one? Very curious. Cluster Bomb. No incentive. I have no incentive to use Bipod anymore. With heavy GLs being as good as they are, right? It would heavily depend on whether or not rockets are in the artifact or doing something unique. But yeah, Bipod has just been kind of washed away by all of the buffs to heavy GLs. Cluster Bomb, Quick Draw, Last Impression, Adrenaline Junkie, Reverberation, Desperate Measures, High Ground, Hatchling. So that's kind of an unfortunate set of damage perks for it, but I guess you'd be going Explosive Light or Redacted. What else? I mean, High Ground. High Ground could potentially... High Ground could be niche as well, because that's what, 20... Is it 20 or 25%? Or 30? I don't even remember anymore. They've made changes to High Ground. Desperate Measures, technically you can get a 30 or 33% damage buff, but that's like proccing Golden Tricorn on a rocket launcher, I imagine. Well, I mean, yeah. It wouldn't be practical for damage phases, essentially, right? Unless you're ad clearing. It would be good in GMs and other content, for sure, where you don't even really need a 30% buff, unfortunately. So it's kind of like it's a bait perk. I think I'm just going to be going for Explosive Light and Field Prep, probably, or Envious Arsenal. So great addition to heavies, having a meta frame for a rocket launcher. Unfortunate, or pretty vanilla set of perks, right? That's the one downside, I guess. Gambit, Backfang, Arc Rapid Fire, Glaive. Okay, just skim through here. Just because I don't play Gambit, I'm probably not even going to get this. But it does roll with Volt Shot if you want to add clear with the projectile, which is, I mean, it is a rapid fire, so if you were to add clear with the projectile on any glaive, then you'd be best doing it with a rapid fire glaive. So there's that. But yeah, other than that, it's standard, pretty standard, close to melee. Unrelenting is kind of nice. If it worked with the glaive melee, that'd be actually really good. I don't think it does though, because most of the perks don't, other than close to melee. Crucible, Joxer's Longsword, Void Heavy Burst, Pulse Rifle. The Heavy Burst, is that the same one as the solar one from Salvation's Edge, Nullify? If it's that frame, then it's probably going to be a good weapon. But it's from Crucible, and I don't play PvP, so... more weapons leaving soon. Undercurrent is leaving. Okay. That's alright. I have all the God Roll Undercurrents I need. And it is a very good weapon. I find Undercurrents a sleeper Waveframe GL as well. Give it a 4 out of 5. Okay. As far as like what it has rolling for it on Backfang. Trials of Osiris is losing the Prophet. Iron Banner is losing Reese Walker and Lethal Abundance. Game to give. Okay, well, it looks like that's pretty much it. What are these emblems? Emblems for donating stuff. How to get involved for game to give. Los Angeles Wildfires if you want to donate. Strength in numbers. Our latest Bungie rewards is here. More Scorgan tunes. New emblem for your creations. I'm just skimming through to see if they're gonna give us a preview of the new dungeon emblems. Artist of the week. Movie of the week. Skullus. Okay, well, I mean, that's pretty much it for the TWAB, so yeah, it took me a little bit to read, but if anybody is interested after this live stream, then yeah, you can have a listen. Overflow and Chill Clip, Freeze Bam. Oh, Rake Angle, yeah. Yeah, my Rake Angle, I've got Overflow and Chill Clip on the one that I enhanced with replenishing Aegis as an alternate option to Overflow. I didn't get the extended mag version though, so I don't have like the insane Overflow extended mag Chill Clip count, but yeah, I mean, the perks alone I think is plenty. So I am looking forward to the buff. I do really like it when we have glaives in the artifact, and like Unstoppable Glaive, for example. There was one season where we had like that medieval artifact mod that affected swords and glaives. That was sick. Yeah, so maybe that'll incentivize me to get back into some glaive builds, because I do really enjoy it. Overflow and close to melee or about any roll with replenishing Aegis is strong. Yeah, I kept it close to melee, rake angle as well. I just haven't enhanced it yet. I only enhanced the chill clip, but yeah, close to melee is really good on, especially on aggressive frames, right? Because the aggressive frames already do more damage. I believe they do more melee damage as well. You could correct me if I'm wrong there. But yeah, like on Judgment of Kelgaroth, I have close to melee on that thing, and it's super good. I love it. Yep. So yeah, I'm looking forward to all that. Glaives are GM level in terms of potency even right now. Yeah, I bet, because I mean, no, it doesn't do more damage on an aggressive frame. It's just the projectile then, right? Because it has like more impact damage. I know that. But yeah, I mean, chill clip is definitely always going to be endgame viable, as long as you can one shot an overload, two shot an unstop. Only RPM and shot damage are affected by the frame. Shield duration also. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. These are all the same. Gotcha. Even like the swing speed and all that. I'm really looking forward to that double damage combo on the melee. That's gonna be fun. But anyways, that's it for me. It's actually pretty late here. It's after 1 in the morning, so I'm gonna hop off. Went through the TWID, got it done. Thanks for chatting with me. Nothing important here. Appreciate you stopping in. And even Winterbite has the fast swing speed. Right. Okay. Yeah. Even though it's a heavy. Interesting. All right. Well, you have a good night, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.